Elevated Grapes Podcast.
Elevated Grapes Podcast.
With your host, Seth.
And
stylist, Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we? So welcome to Elevated Grapes. I am your host, Sethi.
And I'm your co-host, stylist, and fashion consultant, Rashi Bindra.
And today we have a very, very special guest. Her name is Jackie, and they have a creative agency. They do event management, they do PR work, and a whole bunch of other great stuff. I'm going to get into a lot of that with her. And she's been so nice to join us today and share her story with us. So let's all welcome Jackie to our show today.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I am great.
I love your background.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. You know what's so funny? My friend Shani Cares actually gave me these leaves. Her brother worked at some store, and they were throwing them out, and so I didn't know what to do with them. So they literally are above my bed here, because I'm sitting in my bed, as it's my comfort zone workspace. And this is my mood board that I have to re-put some stuff on. But the idea of it is when I'm dreaming and when I'm working, I'm cultivating and I'm growing new plants. So the whole idea behind the greenery and the plants is to kind of just bring life and breathe life into my projects. So that's kind of where this comes from. But every time I do a Zoom call or something, everyone's like, "Where are you? Where in the world are you? You look so like you're in the tropics." I'm like, "I'm home."
But it gives you that little bit of the tropic feel for not being able to go away right now.
Yes, and you know what? My room always, as a kid, has always changed, just decor style. So right now I'm in a green phase. So like my bed coverings are green, my rugs are green, everything. I just feel like green is earth, and I'm trying to be more grounded and planted this year. That's kind of been my anchor word, is just grounding and planting. So I figured this, and then I have a plant that is somewhere over in the corner that I got from an event, a tropical plant that hasn't died. It's been since January, so good.
There we go. So
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go on. I was gonna say that since you like mentioned the whole grounding thing, I feel that's so important. Surprisingly, this year my intention word is abundance, and then it moved to freedom, and I kind of like now have both of them going on. But I did notice that every time to feel grounded, because I don't have like. What I do is in my backyard, I go sit on the grass, and even for like an hour or I try and make that a point now almost every day. And it gives you a whole different sense of, like you said, feeling grounded, and, then working on your projects and kind of, and having that mind space to like bring it all to life. And I mean, I don't like using the word manifestation too much anymore, because I feel it's become a buzzword and thrown around as well. But I've seen it, and I'm starting to see it more and more. So, I mean, at least in my life, the power of clearing that space within you, and being grounded, having that intention, and then just watching it come to life, and then you're like, holy shit! Like this, I wrote this down. And this actually happened, or it didn't happen like the way I wanted, but it happened even better. And I'm seeing that's just becoming more and more like almost like my lifestyle right now with the fields we're in.
I mean, manifestation is something that is powerful. I never really used to be into it, to be honest. I was like, oh, whatever, just did my own thing. But the thought of like the way you speak, the things you breathe life into are what really happens. And I find for me, when I'm down about something, I have a very negative tone, because I have such high expectations for myself, so that nothing's ever good enough. But then the times that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to I want a trip to Cuba. 2018, I went on the radio actually, and I said I was gonna win. I told my whole office, yeah, I'm gonna win, and everyone's like, no, you're not gonna win. I said, no, I'm gonna win, and sure enough, I won the trip. And it's just that, and so grounding is very important. I haven't gotten to the point yet where I want to stick my feet in the earth. There's something about animal shit, and I don't know what's in the grass yet. I'm not quite there.
You're not walking on fire yet either.
No, but grounding and balance are my two words, after like anchor words for this year, that I'm trying to get better on.
So mine became abundance and freedom. And even to your point about how you said the whole you said you would win, and you won that trip, and it happened. Like even when I did New York last September, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to go, how I'm going to make it happen. And we were supposed to go as a team, and that was not working out. And literally like after 2 hours, I was like, I'm gonna go and make this happen. I have no clue how, but just that the thought and that intention, and as you push it, I think same thing for like Artie's wedding too. Like initially I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to come or whatever. I'm like, I want to be there for like my friends, so I'm gonna go and somehow manage to be there, make it happen.
So Jackie, let's talk about that a little bit in the context of your work. So Jackie has a creative agency called Well Connected T.O. It's very well known around the city. But we want to understand, some of how this manifestation, the grounding, and these things that you are adapting into your lifestyle. Like, how does that play into the creative in your business side?
Well, the thing about it is like it's going a little bit back to what Rashi was saying was like you just figure it out. You're like you don't know how you're gonna do it. You just do it. It's one of those things where when I set my mind to something, I don't know how the hell it's gonna come about. I just do it. So I'm a creative, so a brand or client will come to me with a concept, and I'll have all these ideas in the world, and then afterwards I'm like, Jackie, how the hell are you? And my team's always looking at me like, Jackie, you come up with the wildest things. How are we gonna? I'm like, guys, I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. I just put it out there that it's going to be great. And prime example was, I'm a huge fan of B2K. Love them. They're my background screen right now. Love them growing up. I've met Amari a few times and a few of the members a few times. But
Absolutely,
I promise you,
one of the original R&B groups.
Right? I believe I willed them to do this concert. Like, I've been talking about it for years that B2K needs to do a reunion, and I think I put that energy out there. So I'm going to take like 1.2% of this happening. It's all in my head though, but I'm going to take it. But I had told my friends that I'm going to work with them. I'm going to meet them. I'm going to work with this tour somehow. And in the beginning, it didn't come to Toronto. And then Drake announced that it was coming for OVO Fest. And sure enough, I figured out a way, found the PR team, and connected with them, and was able to connect with the team to work with the Millennium Tour while they were here in Toronto. And God only knows how I was able to figure out the pieces of the proper management team, because they were like, how did you get our contacts? I'm like, honestly, guys, Instagram. I did some digging, some light research, and I flipping made it happen. So through my business, there's just this thought of just, you really have to just, it's like trusting in God or whoever you believe in, that walk by walk by faith, not by sight. You really just have to put that intention out there, and then just kind of just let it go. Don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it, and know that there is a will and a way, and it's going to happen. And also, what's for you is going to happen for you when it's ready. And that's something I struggled with. So through my business, it's kind of like, we're going to figure it out. Like, we're going to get to do this. So whatever project lands in my hands, or whatever clients I want, I'm like, I'm going to land this client and we're going to kill it. And that's all I know. How we get to there, who knows? But I just know the end result is going to be great.
So I'm a firm believer in what you just said there, and that I think things happen when they're meant to happen, and because you're not ready for it beforehand, or the timing in your life is not right. Like things almost to a degree, to use Rashi's word, manifest when they're supposed to happen. Yes, there's a bit of work, and it's not all just sort of left up to luck, I guess you can say, right? There's a bit of work that's involved with it. Like, you put that out, that you did your work to get B2K for your event, but it was the right timing for you and your career and your business and the clients you're working with for that to happen. But what are your thoughts on that specific topic? Like, a lot of people are from a different school of thought, where it's like, things don't happen when they're meant to happen. They only happen because you make them happen, and that there's always that debate between the two sides.
I mean, I am a bit of on the fence, to a point, because I do believe you have to put in the work. You can't just throw it up in the air. Like, I'm a Christian. I'm a believer in God, and I just believe, you got to walk by faith, not by sight. But God also expects you to do a little bit of the work. You got to believe that it's going to happen, but you can't lie down all day in bed and be like, I'm going to be a millionaire by next week, but you just laid in bed all day.
Well, hold on, unless you're that person that just played the lotto and won 55 million.
I mean, and that is also like a fluke chance, but for the rest of the population, it's, you have to have actions behind it, right?
Yes.
So in order to make things happen, like I said, I wanted to connect with the tour and do gifting for them, but in order to make that happen, I had to actively search, and find brands and find the team members and actually put things in place to make it actually happen. And then the rest obviously was predestined, but I still had to do a bit of the work. So I get that some people like, yeah, I'm just going to do everything. But I find sometimes we miss a lot of our blessings by doing way too much. Sometimes the simplest things is just to, do what you can and not overcomplicate the situation, because we want it so badly that we start missing the small details and the stillness in that.
That's
Oh my
such a
God,
that's
Jackie,
such a good lesson.
it's you know what, it's just so it's I mean, I'm smiling at this conversation right now because I was having a very similar conversation with a friend actually yesterday. And to your point, yes, when we put out the intention of what we want or what we want to achieve, like you, I've never done, I mean, I used to be the whole like, how this is going to happen and I have to do this 100 things and blah blah blah. And then eventually, especially this year, I started letting go of the how I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve, and just take the whole inspired action towards it. And to your point, yes, we take inspired action, but if something's not meant to be in our lives, you start realizing that you outgrow things. And this sounds terrible, but you sometimes outgrow people, you outgrow those relationships. But when you are aware of that, that space gets cleared for what you really want to come in. So part of me also believes that you are creating the own timing of your life by letting go of things that you're like holding on to. It's scary to like hold on to stuff and not like let it go. But once you get over that fear, like you said, you open the doors to count those blessings, to enjoy the smaller details, and to not like overly work yourself, and to rest and restore in between of what you're trying to achieve. So I was just like
100%.
smiling this whole thing, like I'm like, oh my God, see me blend here.
That's something that was really important. I a couple of years ago when I was back in college, I had there was a psychic at our school, and he kept trying to get my attention. And at the time, I was like, I don't believe in y'all. I'm not interested in this. But he said to me, "You are your biggest problem. You are your biggest issue. You will be the reason why you fail."
One
And
hundred percent.
that stuck to me. And I've had people over the years. I'm a Virgo, so I'm into my head a lot. Like, we overthink everything just because perfection is what we strive for. But just not even just necessarily about just me being a Virgo. I think a lot of us overcomplicate and overthink a lot of the processes and things that we do, and we doubt ourselves, and we are our biggest blockers and obstacles. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's not that this project, this person stopped you stopped you from your own thinking, the negative thoughts you have, the self-talk that you give yourself. A lot of that plays into you. And again, everything's energy. People feed off the energy that you give. So if you think you ain't shit, I mean,
You ain't
that
shit.
energy you get, right, that energy you give, it lets other people know that you ain't shit, so they're going to treat you the way you are treating
You
yourself.
exactly. It's how you look at yourself is essentially the type of people and situations you will attract. And yeah, and I think now when I look back at even my like time in Toronto, and I'm just like, but how did I get myself into this, and how did I get myself into that, but how did I get myself into these amazing things, but at the same time all this shit stuff, right? And then I'm like, well, because I used to think of myself just at this level, so I used to only expect this of myself, so I was attracting that. But and as soon as I started thinking, no, if I'm aiming for, let's say, New York or London or like Milan, like, I mean, when all this is over, obviously, I need to think how people over there are going to think and what they'll expect of me. And then I've noticed the changes that are coming into my life, that even through Instagram, even through all these networking apps, the type of people that are coming into my life. So I'm like, yeah, and what's happening is in my current life, a lot of my relationships and interactions are changing. And initially I was like, oh my God, this is so terrible. They'll think I'm ungrateful, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm like, no, bro, like, this is fine. I want to go here. You're either with me or you're down here, and I shouldn't feel bad about that. And I think that plays a huge role when you start, thinking about your like business and how you want and what you want to achieve and leave behind in life too, right? Because eventually, if and like you being someone who is creative and who will see others and be like, you should do this. You have the like. I would see potentials and I'd fall in love with them, and I'd be like, you're meant to do this. And for me, I was like, I want to help you get there. And then I'm like, wait a minute. And then this year, I was like, it's great that I see that for you, but if you don't see that for yourself, why the fuck am I wasting my time?
It's funny you
You
said
know?
that. talking about my brand actually used to be called the Well Connected Nobody, and I came up with this name, oh God, 2005, 6, I
Sorry,
think.
sorry, you said the Well Connected Nobody?
Yes. And that was the name of, that's what I called myself, because I knew a lot of people. I was able to connect people, but I was still a nobody. People were like, nobody knew who I was. I was this girl from Ajax, like coming to the big city, doing all these random things, and nobody knew me. And I had a friend who literally told me, he's like, you're not a nobody, you're a somebody. And that's why I dropped. It's when Tumblr was first a thing. So the Tumblr blog
Oh
was
yeah.
Well Connected Nobody. And because again, I was 18, 19, I was doing all these events, working with celebrities, had no idea what the hell I was doing. I honestly had no idea that PR was a thing. I studied fashion design. So I actually went to school to be and graduated to be a bridal designer. So I sew, I still love to sew, and I fell into this industry. But I was doing things like when I look at my old emails and I look at old stuff, I'm like, oh my God, like how did Nike, how did Adidas, how did PlayStation trust me and give me all of these things, but nobody knew who I was. And there's a part of me to this day that I still hold a bit of the nobody complex, and I like it. I still like the fact that there's a lot of people who don't really know who I am, don't really know what I do. I like that piece of mystery, because I'm not really interested in the fame and being popular. I'm just really interested in really just leaving a mark on people and helping society and the community be a little bit of a better place. But I had to change the verbiage of my brand, because you want people to look at you. And it's funny, 10, 11, 15 years down the road, I'm working on a new project that's hopefully going to be a book or a podcast, haven't decided, called Change Your Position. And it's really about how do you change your position in life to show up the way that you authentically want to show up in this world, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Well Connected Nobody is a really interesting concept, because I think there's a lot of, you know, quote unquote unsung heroes, folks that are out there doing things behind the scene that are not known and not, don't get their limelight. Not because, and like you said, it's not necessarily that they're looking for it, but a lot of whether it's events or projects, or whether it's in it's across industry, like whether it's in the finance industry or whether it's in the fashion industry, or whatever the case, there's a lot of people behind the scenes. So talk to us a little bit about sort of what Well Connected T.O does. I mean, it's a creative industry. You do your event management. You guys do some PR work. It's a bit of a broad stroke in terms of the type of work that you do, and for the purpose of our listeners, it'd be nice to kind of get from your perspective what exactly the brand stands for and what it does.
For sure. So the Well Connected is a creative lifestyle agency. So in terms of, we work with lifestyle brands. That's where the broad spectrum comes from. We're not just fashion. We're not just tech. We work with anybody within a lifestyle space. And so we help from a few areas. The main area being sponsorship is what our agency really does. So we do sponsorship acquisition, development, and production. So we work with festivals, clients, influencers to help gain sponsorship for their events, sponsorship for their personal branding, or sponsorship, like I said, for a lot of it's conferences or swag bags, galas, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Another huge section of our business is the creative intelligence side, so the back-end communication. So we do a lot of DIY packages. So there's agencies and people who come to us who like, I need a publicist. You don't really need a publicist. You need a plan. And that's the thing. A lot of people feel like they need PR right away. You really need a plan, because PR is really to help a brand that already has an established footprint or has a certain message get further traction. So when you're just starting out, it's not necessary to have a full publicist because you're not gaining as much publicity. It's good to have a plan and strategic tactics. So we help build those out for people. And that's a DIY service we do. Or we do a lot of brand decks. So pitch decks, EPKs, putting like the podcast in a position where you can now pitch to different agencies for sponsorship or recognition, and it's all in one place. It's like a resume, like a visual CV.
Mm-hmm.
And then the smaller spectrum is we do press. It's something we're actually phasing out because it's not an area that I'm really interested in anymore, to be honest. I don't really care to get people on TV or, it's cool when it happens, but it's a very hard thing because everybody and their mother wants to be on TV now, and everybody thinks that their product is gold, and not that you shouldn't, but with an influx of everything, what unique value do you have? So we do a little bit of press, but not too much. But the press is more now into like integration. So we help influencers, authors, whoever get into certain spaces like the BET Awards or the Grammys or, BeautyCon. We will work our connections to get you, influencer passes and stuff like that, so you could access these things. So that's really the agency on a fold. So, and now with, this time that we have, we're really focusing more on the creative digital side of the agency and being more accessible to creating digital packages and memes for people versus the traditional PR route.
Right.
So you actually hit the next question I was going to ask you is, obviously we're all faced with a new challenge of how to look at the world and how to pivot our businesses. So what are you seeing for the work, the kind of work that you do in the space that you're in?
Honestly, it was really hard. I honestly really started getting back into work and in a mode in the last 2 weeks. So since March, the first 2 weeks of March, I was like, oh, this is only going to be for 2 weeks. We're going to chill,
right.
Had a mini vacation. And then life hit, and I'll be transparent. And I talked about it a little bit on some of my lives. It hit me really hard. I'm used to go. I'm used to I had about 15 festivals lined up from April all the way till September. And every single one has been canceled.
Right.
And so that is thousands of dollars.
Of course.
And I work in primarily the sponsorship space. So with events being canceled, what work is Jackie doing? So for a while, I was struggling. I was down and out, felt like I lost purpose, got into a small depression because I felt like I finally had my life together. Like I've had my agency for 5 years, but 2019 was the first year that I went solo without working a backup job or anything. So I don't have any other means of money except for this. So going into the second year, I was on a great traction, going to Atlanta and then going to Chicago for All Star. Then I had BeautyCon and all these things lined up, and it crashed. So it was really hard, but it was a blessing in disguise because I needed that time to be still. And I feel like a lot of us needed that downtime to really stop and be present with ourselves. And really ask ourselves within a brand, what is it that you really want to do? What messages do you want to achieve? So the last couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of auditing of my brand. So I'm redoing my website right now, making it more user-friendly, making it more accessible for the type of content and clients that I want to activate with, really going through my videos and posts and seeing what worked, what hadn't worked, rebuilding my content, reigniting projects like Connected in the City, which is a Instagram live thing that I do every other week.
I see that.
I had a magazine back in 2016, 17, that was that, and I've been wanting to move it digital, but again, I haven't had the time. So I've now had the time to really revamp it and do it, and it's exciting because I'm getting people watching it and talking, and I'm connecting with people all over the world and doing the things that we didn't have time to do. So right now with my business, we're into May. My client moved with one event to August. So now it's like, okay, let me reach out to all the brands now and see what's going on. Because in this space, nobody knew what to do. Do you reach out to a brand and ask for money for sponsorship when they're letting go of staff, when they don't know where their budget is coming from? Like from an ethical standpoint, what are the best practices for your brand and agency? So I took a silent route and kind of watched to see what the world was doing. And I feel now that we're back, that we're in May, people are it's starting to get, okay, guys, we here for the long run. We got to keep going now. Let's just go back to some type of normalcy. So the last 2 weeks, my partner Frida and I have been really focused on just, re-engaging with brands and sponsors and asking them, how can we support you? How can we help you? What is working for you? And what are you doing right now in this time? And then working with how they're moving. So that's kind of what I've been up to. And like I said, redoing my website, doing brand deals and getting stuff together, really having one-on-one time with my clients and being like, okay, so where are you at? Like mentally, let's not even talk about business. Where are you at mentally, and really having those conversations.
You hit some amazing points in there, Rashi. Because we're gonna touch. I know which one Rashi wants to go into, so we're gonna go into that for sure. Because I think that's gonna be the lengthier part of our discussion. But I do want to ask you one question, just about those conversations with sponsorships. Like you were like that's your primary business. Now you have 15 events lined up, sponsorship dollars being allocated from these various brands and companies. And now it's like, okay, well, you have this commitment from the companies to your clients, your clients are depending on that money, and your brands have committed to it. But now you're facing a challenge. Brand, they're watching their cash flow because they don't know when their money's going to come in. Your client, on the other hand, who's depending on this cash flow, even if the deposit itself, even without the event, may have gone to pay for some expenses. So how are those conversations happening, and what sort of outcomes have you seen from those kind of conversations? Because I think this is something that a lot of different companies are going to be facing or are facing.
It's a tricky slope, and I think we have to look at it from the human factor, not a business factor. So in the beginning, I had a lot of brands that were just canceling. They're like, we don't know what to do. We're going to put everything on pause. So checks were on hold, things were on hold. Some of the brands have, like, I've had a brand that literally, we said we're on pause, but they're like, no, we're sending you the money. And I'm just like, but the contract states that if the event is canceled, you still need to pay us. You need to give us back our money, or you have to keep us up to breath. So I've been advising my clients. I've really been telling everybody, cancel. It is in your best interest right now. Let's put everything to 2021, cancel everything. Let's all take a step back, take a breather, rebrand, really work with these brands in a space where now we have more time to maybe even get more money out of them. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Long term, you got to look long term.
But again, really seeing how we could build on something that's better. But a lot of it has been giving back money. Clients have been like, okay, you didn't spend that $5,000. Okay, let's give it back to the brand. Let's stop. I've even stopped. Like, I've had clients that are like, okay, we're on a monthly payment. Like, I went ahead and stopped all of my monthly payments because, to be honest, what am I doing right now? Why are you paying me to sit still? Like, it doesn't make sense. So
of course,
just take your money, hold on to it. The money for me will find me. Thank God this government grant came through. I'm able to get that, and I truly believe. I always say this: the money for me is going to come to me. But right now, the conversations are, how can you be a solution to a brand that has a problem?
Right.
And I think just a tactic overall in work, no matter what field you're in, you always want to be the solution to a problem that your company, your corporation, your business, your friendship is facing. So we've kind of started going out to brands saying, how can we help you? If it's us doing a post for free, having our influencers do a post for free, how do we continue to spread the message that we're all here for each other? Because right now it's not about a business thing, it's about a human thing. And I think that's what that approach that we took was a human thing has been very successful for us, because we're not out here saying, oh my God, we have this new project. It's really just like, hey, we want to check on you. I did an email blast. I'm a sewer, as I told you guys. So I showed people how to make their own face mask, inserting a coffee filter, because I know how to sew and craft. And it was just wanted to check up on you. I've had brand people that I've only emailed, that we've never really had a full conversation, email me, ask to hop on a Zoom, and we've just chopped it up for 2-3 hours just about life. And we're not talking about business. We're not talking about money or anything. But the good thing about that is I've built a relationship with these people of sorts. So where they're like, oh my God, when the band lists, as soon as I come to Toronto, we have to go for coffee. Or I'm like, yes, when I come to New York. And I think anybody that's thinking about reaching out to brands or sponsorship, we're still in a gray area, because, we're hearing right now that we're going to have a second wave, and we haven't really hit the pinnacle of what's going to happen. So I think anybody that's reaching out, just think about the human factor first. Outside of your business, we know you need to make money. We know you need to feed your kids, but you are not alone. There is 1,000,001 other people, not just alone in this country, but in this world, who are in the same position. Rich people are struggling because they're like, we don't got to know what to do. Used to getting all this money, and now it's like they really have to save, and they really have to ration. And is this $15 million house really
necessary right now? Yeah.
Right now, So I think, if you're going to reach out to anybody, I think it's just come at it from a human factor and ask them, how can you support them? And that will open up a conversation to many different ways, versus, hey, I have my audience following this, because yes, Amazon and Walmart and all these people are doing great online sales, but for how long? Because where's the rest of the
Where's the go? So sorry guys, we're going to take a quick break right here, and then we're going to come back and talk about the other stuff, which I know Rashi wants to get into. Hey guys, we're taking a quick break just to remind you where you can find our podcast online.
You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Tunes.
Apple Music, but you call it Apple Tunes.
Whatever.
Right. You can also find us on TuneIn, on Google Play, and of course Instagram, when we do it the first Tuesday of every month.
And Facebook, here and there.
Here and there.
Here and there.
So thanks for tuning in, and now back to our podcast.
Okay, and we're back. I actually get to say this time.
There you go.
It's so special. Because normally, like the male host always hijacks that part, so I never get to say it. But yes, I am a Leo at the end, guys. I will point shit out. Come on.
Well, I'll give Rashi where the credit to. Like Rashi is the conversationalist. So she usually comes with the amazing stories and like the experiences, and she knows how to articulate them very well. So a lot of our conversations, as much as like I kind of sit there and be like, okay, we got to take it in this direction, let's move it around. Rashi's the one actually diving deep into the conversations with our guests. And so, given that we had a topic that we wanted to talk about before, and I gracefully cut Rashi off earlier by accident.
Yes, you did.
So now it's her turn to. Now this is going to turn into a 3-hour conversation. So here we go.
Absolutely. So let's do this.
Yeah.
So Jackie, now just going back into that point of, even for someone as highly as accomplished as you, and when I say that, I mean that from so many different layers, not just from a business point, because one, to even have the type of business that you have, it requires strength, it requires resilience, it requires being able to take rejection and going with it and still getting up the next day and knocking on those doors and pushing yourself out there, which is very, very difficult. And I mean, we see all those quotes that says rejection is just redirection. And yes, when you write it, it's very nice. But when you go through it, you're like crying in the blanket sometimes, which I know I've done many, many times.
Great in theory, hard in reality, right?
It's very, very hard. And, last year was a very difficult year, I found, for a lot of people. Like I've had that conversation with women, even a few guys who were like, it was actually a very difficult year. It was also a year of growth in the sense, like you said, it was your first year of being fully into business without having like a second job. On a similar scale for myself too, it was a main year for me where I was not having a full-time job, and I was either doing an event every month or I was styling. Then we were building elevated drapes and a bunch of things, and it was always go. And then this year,
like you had stuff going daily. Like there was not a day where you were able to sit down because there's so many other events or styling shoots or whatever the case.
And just building on the new things, and then we were doing all the music stuff and branding you and a couple of other people. So it was like a nonstop thing. And then this year, I told myself, okay, I'm gonna slow it down a little bit, but take on, bigger projects, and and then that's when we were also talking about how we would work with each other later this year, and a bunch of other things. And then COVID happened, and before COVID happened, I was like, okay, now I don't need to work, a full-time job again this year. The bigger contracts were slowly starting to like come in, and I was like super excited. I was like, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that, and this year I have this and this to do. And then obviously for someone who's a stylist and in the events industry as well, the first thing that gets shut down is what I do. So I was like, holy shit. And like yourself, the first 2 weeks, I was like, this may not last that long, just maybe 2-3 weeks. So I'm going to take some time to do yoga and learn this class and do this and that and that. And then when I got the flu, that's when my depression hit me. Like, holy shit, I literally killed myself in Toronto for 5 years to get to where I want to get. I have sacrificed family time, personal relationships, everything. Now things are finally coming the way I want it to come to me in terms of my like job stuff. And I have to restart and rebuild again from scratch and literally figure out now how I'm going to get income coming in, and how do I start talking to people about products and services, because again, to your point, it becomes such an insensitive time that you can't just be like, hey, so do you want me to do a virtual cleanup of your closet? Oh, and it's like $300 for this or that. You just can't even do that. And then I started having those conversations of how can I be of service to you? How can I be of help to you? And what that slowly started, and during this time as well, I was working on getting into personal styling and creating a program for like women and then also men, where we're doing personalized self-care and redoing your wardrobe type of vibe with like the whole like makeup and skincare and like photo shoots and a bunch of those things. then I had to again take that program, downsize it, make it more COVID accessible, as I would say, to be very blunt. And then it became a battle of how do I put this out there without being insensitive? And like yourself, started having those conversations with people, started creating engagement where we do master classes with women who were home with, you know, kids and stuff like that. So I teamed up with someone and we started doing this weekly master class, like for a period of time, where we were offering, you know, life tips, beauty tips, wellness, from like meditation, and then how to style, and then how to, like, even what you wear makes a huge difference. And we started getting emails, and in fact I like read one this afternoon where they were like, we took your tips, it's actually helped me feel better. I actually
I'm a
feel
client as
better
well. I'm a
during
client.
this.
I'm a client. I'm just saying I'm a client as well.
Yours was different that I sent to you. And we started getting those emails, and I was like, going back to now the whole intention, manifestation, putting your true self out there and speaking your truth, and then letting go of the how. I was like, oh my God, just the fact that what we're doing is helping these people. And then I started having people, you know, ask me, so I heard about your program. What do you do? How much does it cost? Do you have a payment plan? And I mean, it's not like super expensive. I purposely made it very, very dirt cheap, just because, again, I'm trying to be mindful of this.
Of course,
But just, you know, at that moment, you're like, this is how you reshift. But those 4 weeks or 5 weeks of, you know, getting into that mindset and just being like, I was going one way, now I crashed, now I have to restart. And, you know, see it coming, but it takes a very different mental strength, I find. And I'd love to ask you how you get your mental strength, because I can totally understand when you have a different mindset, and even when you sit in stillness and you take that time off to yourself and you're like, okay, I'm going to reset and reground myself, and what's coming to me will come, and that's fine. But there are days where, you know, like you said, you've had a bad day. You've felt like, how the fuck is this gonna happen? Why do I have to restart now? And like every other person, you know, when we reach a certain phase or age in our life, we also want to take some care to ourselves, which we feel we were getting after like hustling, and then now we're like, shit, restart that. So
it's
yeah.
You said some key things there. I think even for me, I haven't promoted any of my business services because I don't feel it's appropriate. And when I'm seeing people posting ebooks online and like especially in the beginning, and they're charging crazy amounts of dollars, I'm like, just the nerve of when all of these big companies are offering things for free for
And you're
$0.
charging.
They're giving you 30 days free programs and this, that, because they know that right now it's about building communities. So I always look at things of coming back to your authentic self, coming back to the quirky, intimate parts of you that we don't show because we are built in a society where we have to show and prove. So now we always have to be on. And what you said there is about, you know, you and your friend just decided to do these master classes just to help people out, people that are at home. It was that authentic, organic wanting to help that brought the people to you. Because I found I have not pitched any business. I'm not saying, hey, doing anything. I've had people reach out to me. I found you online. I want to know how much your services are. You know, do you have a payment plan, or what's your? I have a budget, and I'm kind of like, y'all have money in this time of need.
Yeah.
Me? All right. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think again, I was offering, you know, willing to go on live, just being authentic and just talking about how this is really struggling for me and how I'm having a hard time and who else is having a hard time. And those authentic moments is when, you know, people start seeing you at your best self, and those bring the best value. But to your point of how do you shift, it is hard, and having to shift required me to open up to my friends and family about how I was actually feeling, because as somebody who I internalize, so I shut down. So when I'm not feeling well, when I'm mad or angry, I shut down because I need to process and think how I'm gonna move through this. But I had to stop trying to foresee and forethink and just be still and accept my feelings in that moment, whether it be I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed, I'm just angry at God, or, you know, just all of these things. And when my friends would ask me, hey Jax, like, how are you doing? Instead of me doing my usual, yeah, I'm good, you know, I would be like, I'm not okay. And my friends are not used to hearing
that from you.
Yeah. They're normally used to, you know, Jax, when we're not okay, we always go to you. You always know how to cheer us up. So, and even my friend earlier this year, Chantal, same Shani Cares, follow her if you guys don't follow her. She's absolutely amazing.
What's the handle again?
At Shani Cares. I think it's at Shani Cares with an underscore. I'll find it and let y'all know. But
Yeah,
it's
send it to us.
Shani Cares.
We'll throw it in the description.
Yeah, she's honestly a really cool person. And she's honestly, I've known her since college, but she's also been very authentic and transparent with me. And she had a conversation with me earlier this year about not sure about our relationship because she doesn't feel like she could be here for me, and that I don't really allow her to be here for me, and she finds it hard as trying to be a friend to kind of be there. And normally years ago I would have been really upset at taking that to heart, but it's starting to learn where you fit in this world and learn to just hear people. And I feel like, or listen, I feel a lot of us are hearing, but we're not listening to people, and there's a big difference. You have to listen, and not listen to respond, listen to adjust.
You said a key thing there. A lot of us listen to respond.
Yeah, we do. All of us do it all the time. And so she really talked to me about that. And, she also said some things. I'm terrible at calling people because I'm so work focused. And I apologize to all my, I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. But she was like, you always call me and it hurts. And, I wish you would call, I always call you. I wish you would call me. And the funny thing is, the day before she said that, I was having a talk with my sister saying, Chantal always calls me. I need to call her. So I've made a conscious effort to adjust the way that because, we want to be received a certain way, but we should also look at how people want to be received and see how you can give that.
Such a big thing. So
being honest with that and being honest with my friends about how I was feeling really helped me through this time because I allowed them to be there for me and trying to be there for myself. And that is what I think people need to take away from, is that we are, and get out of this head that you are the only one going through this. You are not.
Have you guys all read that book, the 5 Love Languages?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think
have it.
Yeah, but I think Jackie hit a really important point that speaks to something from that book. Like that book really speaks about how to show love in the way the person wants to receive it. But it doesn't talk about showing love in the way you know how to show it and the other person understanding how you show it, right? And I think you hit such a key point because that's what you just said. Like it's about understanding how does that person want to receive how you care? Like how do they receive? And how do you show like that person understanding, okay, this person doesn't necessarily show it by saying it in a specific way. They show it by doing action. So maybe I have to understand their way of showing it to me versus them understanding how I want to receive it.
And I'm an action-based person. Like I just do for my friends. You need a baby shower, I got you. But funny enough, Chantal asked all of us, how can I be a better friend? And that to me spoke volumes.
That's really interesting.
For you to break down to a point where you want to ask the people that you care about how you could be a better friend. Like I was taken aback by the comment. I was like, I think you're a great friend. But she's like, no, I'm sure I could do better. And the thought of wanting for herself to feel like how she could do better, it's very few people that actually can break down themselves and ask you to audit them and be like, tell me what I can do better.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We all think we're the greatest friends, the greatest daughters, but I promise you, if you were to really ask your friends and families the things that you could do better, the things that they would come out and say, nobody is prepared for that conversation. I don't even know if I'm still prepared,
Yeah, no, it's a tough one. I think all of us to some degree would be like challenged or hurt or not ready to hear that, but it's also very important.
Yeah. And Jackie, you touched on something so key that I definitely want to comment on is you said that we listen to respond.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and I will get a little bit personal here. These past couple of months for me actually became very lonely, not because I wasn't chatting with my friends or I did not have a tribe of girls that I'm used to dealing with on going through all this stuff, but one or two, like a couple of my best friends, I guess they were going through like their stuff too. And one of them, when we were trying to navigate through this, and like yourself, I'm usually the person who's there for like others. It's very rarely I will tell someone like, I'm feeling like this and I actually need help. It takes a lot for me to trust you enough to like even bring myself to that point. And one of my friends and I, we were not connecting the way we usually connect. And me being me, so one of my things is I don't process things to that level, I usually just speak it out, because I have to speak out my mind if something's bothering me. I don't like to hold it in. I feel like it just makes things worse. I rather get it out in the open, have that uncomfortable conversation, and then decide how we want to move on. And so when I asked her about it, she was like telling me her stuff, and then she said a couple of things that really hurt, but then she's like, I just don't think we are aligned right now. And for me, that was such a hard thing to hear, because I was like, this is someone who knows my deepest, darkest secrets. This is someone who, in the past 3 years, we've evolved to such a strong sense of friendship that I can truly say one of my really, really good friends in Toronto, like one of my best friends in Toronto, and she's telling me that she's not aligned with me. And I'll even come out and say this, very few people realize I'm a super sensitive person. I'm a Leo, yes, but I'm also very, very sensitive. So when certain people say certain things to me, I take it way too hard, and it takes me a very, very long time to like get over that. And not talking to her for like almost a month, because I wanted to like respect her space and privacy, I did that. But during this time, I started listening to her quietness. So even though we were on like video chats in a group with each other, and we were obviously still like active on Instagram and, supporting each other, I would see how she'd come on. So I'm like, wait a minute, she's wearing way too makeup this session. Why is she, And then in my mind, I'm like, she's going through things. She's going through her stuff. So I'm going to let it be till we're ready to talk again. And one thing led to another, and I just reached out to her. I'm like, listen, you've been coming into my dreams a lot, so I was wondering, would you like to do this? And she's like, I'm so glad you messaged. And we just started talking all over again. And that was what it made me realize, that sometimes when I don't hear from people that I expect to hear, or I'm used to talking a lot to, and they don't respond back the way I'm used to it, now instead of taking it too hard, there's still two things I do. I either try and listen in that quietness, in those absence of text, or like, messages that, hey, this person's normally used to telling me all these things and now they're not. Is it because of so-and-so reason? Cool. Or I will sometimes or my intuition, kicks in, and it's like, I don't think this person genuinely connects with you the way you guys used to connect. And that's okay though, Rashi. And then I go in the whole, like, you do you, bro. You know what I mean? Like, when you're ready to chat and talk and be friends and move on to the next level, if I'm still there in that same wavelength, sure. So for me, this was the hardest lesson during this time, is to start to listen in that stillness.
Listening to quietness is such a key message you just said there. Like, listening to people's quietness is so important. And that goes back to the whole listening to respond versus actually listening.
But it's also going back to what I've had to understand, because I've been in the same position where I've had friends where we always talk all the time and everything was great. And then, like, I had a friend, we didn't really talk for a whole year. She went through something really traumatic, and I was there for her, but we didn't really talk like we used to. And in the beginning, I was like, well, I'm offended, like, da-da-da-da. But what I came to learn through that is that everybody is there for you in certain pockets of your life, and you are there for people at certain times. And maybe right now that energy that I have is not what she necessarily needs. And it doesn't mean that we're not friends. It just means at this point in time, I am not that person that needs to be there to fix her or help her or support her in that way. And we have to respect those boundaries. And again, when we started talking, it was like nothing ever happened. And I think it's respecting those values and spaces, and understanding that some people you'll go to for certain things and not other people. And it doesn't make it less or more that they love that person more and love you less. It's just that right now that person feels a need that right now you can't give them. And I always talk about this as well. I'm single, and I tell my friends all the time, I'm not, you're not single, you're bored. And I think a lot of us don't know how to be by ourselves and don't understand the value of being by ourselves, especially our generation of millennials, with being brought up in the digital age of computer age. We're used to this FaceTiming, video timing, talking to people, seeing people. So this has really shown a lot of us how to really be still in your own thoughts and understand that, guys, just because we can survive, you don't have a boo or you live by yourself, that you will be fine. But I think a lot of this is requiring us to really get down to ourselves and understand our past traumas, our childlike traumas, understand who you are at your core, and really self-reflect. And I think if anything, if you're not using this time to self-reflect and connect and reconnect, you've missed the whole point.
100%.
downtime.
Oh my God, 100%. And Sadr, sorry, I just want to mention
No, it's fine.
one thing here. You know, Jackie, you said such a thing about knowing your core, and and that hit me as well, because when I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do now, or do I still feel the same way about certain projects that I'm involved in, or you know what I mean? Like, why am I feeling this disconnected? I actually had a conversation with someone who I consider one of my biggest mentors, you know, from Montreal. Like, we've done the impossible at that time, it seemed. And, you know, she reminded me this. She's like, as you're journaling, ask yourself the core why, who you are.
Yeah.
What's your purpose? What do you want to do with all these things, with all these people in your life? What do you want to do? Where do you want to see, and how do you fit in? And then as I started doing that exercise, I started re-understanding what you know, like you said, what your core is, your why of doing what you're doing. And you know, and in that process, a couple of very cool projects got birthed, and I'm in the middle of one, which even Sarah doesn't know yet, because I really want to keep it a secret till it's out.
I keep hearing this over and over.
I'm taking more time than usual on it, because it's one of those things where it's like my baby now. It's like the 9-month process baby. Like, it's so close to my heart. But to your point, but that wouldn't have happened if that whole understanding your core, understanding your why, being reconnected to yourself doesn't come with this time, right? And like you said, this is the time for it.
I think, and again, understand that this is a process and it's a journey, and you're not gonna figure it out today. It's just a stepping stone in a new direction. But a lot of it is, you know, even when it goes back to your brand or your business, even when I was going through my depression and struggling with my brand, I had to remind myself what my brand is. So I have sticky notes where I was like, you know, I created a whole brand map of who the Well Connected is, what our core values are, what our mission is, why we do what we do. And I read that shit every single day. It's to the point I memorize it now. I can do without blinking, but this time it's about going back to your core self, going back to the core values of why you started your brand. I asked my friends, what does the Well Connected mean to you? Or I asked them, what talents do you think I have? Because again, I can't see myself. I know what I want to project, but what am I actually projecting? So I asked certain people around me that have worked with me in business, who have seen me hustle, what are my talents, what am I good at? And now I've refocused my brand, and you'll start seeing in the next couple of weeks and months how it's starting to shift, because the Well Connected, because I still don't know what the Well Connected is. Like, how do I make a legacy out of this brand that's more than just a PR agency? How do I impact people? How do I serve and work in my purpose? And you know, you have to go back to your core values, because along the way you lose sight of why you started, because all these new things are happening and your goals keep shifting. But the core value of why you started, that string, that is that universal umbilical cord that's wrapped in gold that cannot be cut, is still the underlining process of who you are. And that's also ultimately you, not just your brand, but why are you you? And you know, I was telling somebody the other day, you know, I used to want to fit in so badly in college, in high school. I wanted to fit in with so many people and be part of the popular clique. And I was always weird. I was always different. And I talk a lot. I'm extra. I do shit that people are like, well, who does that stuff? And for years, even in relationships, I suppressed that because it just wasn't normal. And I have fought so hard over the past couple of years I refuse to be put in a box. Like, I thrive in being the square peg in the round hole. I like that shit. And you know, going back to what makes you you, somebody thought putting friggin' paper and a glued strip adhesive on the back of a paper, calling it a post-it, was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And no, how many people told that person no? And post-its, you know, that's a multi-trillion-dollar business.
Yeah.
It was that one weird idea that someone thought of that was going to make them you. And I encourage and implore people to go back to that funny, quirky, this doesn't make sense part of you, and I promise you, you will find your best self.
You've said the words right out of my mind and heart and mouth, and exactly that. Like, I used to be weird and different, and I think I still am at some point. And I shut up.
Hold on. Pause on the play. Time out. Used to.
And I tried to fit in. And you know, recently I tried to fit in this box and this square, what I'm supposed to do, because there were some people here who would be like, Rash, you have all this talent, you have all this, but you need to fit in, you need to conform. And I'm like, okay, maybe I am doing something wrong, so let me try this. And holy shit, the biggest mistake of my life was that. It was my biggest lesson. Biggest lesson. I'm very grateful for all of that nonsense, though. I actually write in my journal, I'm grateful for all the shit that happened, because like I'm back to being who I am. And yeah, like when you are that crazy, weird, person that people leave you alone because they don't know what to do with you, that's where the post-its of the world, happen.
So
and all the crazy things.
Let me ask you both a question, because you guys are both saying something very similar. The whole the idea of fitting in, right? A lot, Jackie, Rashi, like myself, all three of us are busybodies. We all do very, very well in our respective fields. We're all go-getters in our respective fields. We focus a lot of our time and attention in our respective fields. And we build our networks, we build those relationships and all those kind of great things. And we fill a lot of our time building those in our respective fields, right? Do you think yes, there's a part of it that's passion, you enjoy doing it, and I'm not taking, and this is not to take away from that, but do you think a part of that is because we, to a degree, also feel like we don't fit in, and this is our way of fitting in, because this is how we're able to, be ourselves without having to change it?
100%. And I feel like I want to make a point. I remember working in a PR agency and interning, and I was failing miserably. And keep in mind, I didn't come from the journalistic PR world to begin with, so I knew I had a lot of people take a chance on me, knew nothing about annotations and anecdotes and all this crap and how to write all these things. So I was coming at it from completely left field. And I remember being like, okay, Jackie, if you want to make it, you got to fit it. You got to do what they do. You got to do how they do it. And I was failing, missing stuff, screwing up, getting yelled at by bosses, crying in corners in the bathroom, like swearing that I'm never going back to work. And then one day we had work had an event, and I just did me, which was just my bubbly personality, people pleasing self, chatting, networking, and it was to the point where people kept commenting, "Oh, the influencer you have is so amazing." And then my boss was like, "Who are you talking about?" Like, yeah, she works with this. And I remember the next day, my boss sat down and said, "Jackie, whatever we taught you, we told you to do, don't do it."
Just like, be yourself.
They're like, obviously, to some point, you have to follow certain things.
Yeah, of course.
But they're like, whatever you did, just do that, because that is you at your best self. And that's when I learned the value of being at your best authentic self, and that you have to show up as her or him or they or it or whatever people want to identify as today, is that. And I think being weird is a way of fitting in, because it's funny, this guy named from Pretty Ricky, Baby Blue, he literally posted something earlier today on Instagram. I'm gonna find it so I can read it. And I literally
Pretty Ricky.
Oh my God, was just
so good.
I just commented on it, but it was saying that when you're not something on the lines of when you're not at your authentic self or whatever the case may be, people hate that shit. Or I'll have to find it again and re-quote it, but I feel like we are, this is our way of fitting in. We're showing you that, hey, like, you know what, I don't want to be part of your club. And though I want to be there before, there's nothing, and you know what's funny, there's certain clubs that I wanted to be in, people that I wanted to associate with. And when I finally got the invite to sit at the table, I realized I didn't want to be there.
You didn't want to be there.
I don't want to sit at that table anymore.
Sorry,
and I feel like,
I'm gonna take a quick break here because we're approaching our time limit again. So we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Yeah, guys. So we're back. That I was like about to think of my next sentence, and then I realized I should say that we're back.
Rashi, that's twice in one show for you. That's amazing.
I know. I'm so proud of myself.
It's a new record.
So Jackie, the one thing that you said which really, really hit home for me was, once you get those invites to those tables, which we finally wanted in our own respective fields and desires, then you get to that table and you're like, God, I actually don't want to sit with you guys. And it's, you know what it is, like, I mean, and I'm like, I grew up without having a lot of friends because I was weird and to myself and all those things. When I finally found a group of artistic weirdos, as I call them, and I love them to death in Montreal, a couple of years later, had to move to Toronto, and I hope one day you do get to meet them. They will all tell you one story, is that we had gone out for this surprise dinner for my going away, and I was crying so much. I literally cried into my best friend's hair. She will testify that her hair was wet because I was crying so much. I did not want to leave Montreal and come to Toronto. I did not want to leave, but I finally felt that this is the table that I did want to sit on. And then I came here, and I was so lonely and I had to restart networking from scratch, going to events by myself. I didn't know a single person. I did not know the difference between King Street and Queen Street back then. Like, I had no clue what that even was. And I was going back to Montreal a lot because I was just like missing it. And then I stood to myself, oh my God, I want to be invited to this club. And I remember the first time I heard about Thompson Hotel and I saw Thompson Hotel, I was like, wow, it'd be so cool that if I could do an event here. I was like, and I'd love to sit on the rooftop and have champagne there. And somehow and for the next, from 2016, I think, or 2017, it was one of those years till last year, it became a second home for me. I somehow and I did the full, I started the whole boutique fashion shows over there, and that became events, and then we did our like DJ nights there. And there are times I'd look back and I'd be like, I still remember when I was dying to come to this, this venue, and I thought it was like so cool, and now this is like my second home, and now I'm like, do I have to do an event here? Like, I want to do something else. Like, I'm not feeling this anymore. And
well, I think for someone like you, or for like Jackie and myself, it's hitting benchmarks, right? Like, you set certain goals and achievements you want to hit. It's like, okay, I've hit this. Like, I've done this was a dream for me or a goal for me. I've done it. Now what's next? Like, I can't. Like, this is not where I stop. Like, this is not the end all of me. That was one goal.
And that's the part of people like us who want more. Like, I'm very much like my dad. We could win the Pulitzer Prize, and it's not good enough. And my friends, bless their hearts, Nicole has been Miss King's Kitchen. Shout out to her. She's been a very big advocate from the beginning, years ago, telling me, Jackie, you need to be a little bit more grateful of where you come from because you've done things that no one else has done. My friend Rochelle, Chantel, there's a lot of people around me who have really championed, owning that space. But to your point, we want more. So winning this prize, that's great, but
what's next?
Right. And I feel like people like that are never satisfied because there's so much potential that we have. We want to do so much that one goal, and there are, again, no shade to those people who are like, I want to be a top exec of a Fortune 500, and that's it for them. For me, to be the top exec of a Fortune 500
is not exactly.
It's not a goal. I hit that milestone. It's like, okay, how can I be
what's next?
An exec of 7 Fortune 500 and have 7 other leaders underneath me. But no, refusing the seat at the table is for me. I mean, I might turn that into a book now that we're podcasting. This conversation, I have so many different ideas, and this has sparked so many different conversational topics. But I'm
absolutely glad.
In so many different aspects of my life, I've been wanting to be in high school. I want to fit in with these kids. In public school, I want to fit in with these kids. College, you want to be part of this. You want to be the popular person. You want to be invited to these things. And then when you get to know these people, knowing them one-on-one is one thing, and you see how really regular they are. But then when you get to see these people, even in brands, like there's certain events I want to go to the Grammys, BT Awards, and when I finally hit it, I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. We're like, oh.
Okay.
I'm there now.
Okay, cool.
You now get, there's this conference going on, and there's a lot of people I know in it, and I'm just like, I would have loved to have been a part of that, but, a couple of years ago, I would have been hell-bent about why I wasn't invited or why you don't think that I could talk or be a part of it, and then another part of me, like, I can create it on my own. And what's meant for me will come for me, and if it's an organic fit, it will fit. But we have so much power that I don't think a lot of us understand, that you have the power to change your narrative completely. With Instagram being the way they are, you want to be on a platform and you want to speak, host your own live or webinar, host your own thing. You don't need to be on that platform with that girl over there that has 50,000 followers, because she's also telling the same story. And notice a lot of these circles, they recycle the same people. They're rarely.
Oh my God, yes.
And I've been saying that from last summer. I've been a champion on my Instagram saying I'm tired of seeing the same faces on summits, on different conferences, on events. Like, when do you start bringing in other people? When do you start showing other people? I'm tired of hearing the same goddamn story of how you got started. Like, if you're going to be on these same platforms, bring something new, bring new content.
New, fresh, exciting.
And people aren't. And I think that's why the unsung heroes, as you were saying earlier, the people behind the scenes, that's why the Well Connected Nobody is still, I have that old logo taped to my wall, because I still remind myself that, you are still a regular person, and there are a lot of nobodies just like yourself.
Well, it's also sorry, go ahead, Rashi.
Sorry, no, go.
No, so I was going to just say, like, something really important you said there is like, one of your friends was telling you, don't forget sort of where you came from, and like be appreciative of the things. But I don't like hitting that next goal doesn't take away from the appreciation of where you came from for me. Like I still go back and think about, like, for me, like from a DJing perspective, my first gig was in a garage for a Mickey of Jack Daniels. Like that was my payment. And I had 12 records and I played them hell over and over, like in different ways as possibly could for the entire night. This guy still gave me a chance. I just had started, but I can't forget that was my first gig, and that's where it came from to the type of events I'm doing today. But that to me is the reason why I want to continue to grow, because that having that first opportunity that person gave me, even though it was such a nominal payment, I still got paid. And they didn't know my ability. They didn't know that I could do it. They gave me a chance, and that led to someone else hearing me, and then that led to someone else hearing me, and then that led to someone else hearing me, and to going into like the Lavals and like the different, like in Mexico and Washington, all these places I get to do now. But that wouldn't have happened unless that first person gave me that chance. So I think you always have to be appreciative of where you came from and how you got started. But that's, to me, is a motivator for why you should continue to always want to reach that next goal.
Of course, but it's also accepting the journey as well, because for someone like me, why she would say that to me is because, again, I have this "it's not good enough" complex. And she's really humble yourself, because you've done some amazing things that people your age have never done. Yes. And it's taking that time to also, for me, thank my creator for giving me that opportunity and that way, because just as much as these blessings are coming, they could easily be stopped once you get too cocky, once you get
absolutely
a gratefulness and ungratefulness. There's a lot of people that are doing it, and they're very ungrateful for the fans, or I don't like to call people fans.
Oh my God, I hate that word.
I know. It's so
you have fans, Sartor.
No, we have friends. We have friends.
Right, but it's like, it's being respectful to that nature.
Yes.
I don't have to shout you out. You don't have to shout me out. It's being grateful that someone took it upon themselves to put you on their platform. And a lot of people expect these things now because you have 50,000 followers, or you're this big celebrity, this, that, and the third. You expect that, but you have to be very humble that you don't deserve these people's. It's not required for these people to support you.
And Jack, you know what? I also will say that to what you're saying, you have to start being very honest to yourself, and sometimes even. We sometimes are scared to be honest with ourselves, because you are going to be telling yourself things that you may not necessarily want to hear or accept. Like, and I'll share this story. In September, when I went to New York Fashion Week, it was my first time going. I went alone. I loved every second of it. Even when I thought I didn't have a place to stay at night, I was still like, I love it.
That was a journey in itself.
It was a journey in itself. And then when I came back, I felt so disconnected and so uninspired, and the spiral happened for a very, very long time, and I noticed that was affecting some of my friendships, that to a point, I think, Sarah, even once you told me that I have such expectations from people that I made people feel that they're not good enough for me, and I'm like, holy shit, am I really doing that to my friends and family and people that I care about? And I had this conversation with my mentor.
I said that to you?
Yeah. In our February conversation.
Sorry.
I told you, I'm a sensitive person. Some things I don't forget. And
right.
And I had that conversation with my mentor, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It's not that I'm not grateful for everything that the city has given me, and I wouldn't have made it this far if I was still in Montreal. That I do accept, because it's such a very, very different vibe. And she's like, Rashi, people like us. And she's Jackie, someone that I know you'd love, and I would love for like you guys to meet one day. She's like, when you went to New York in 2015 and we did Fashion Unfold over there by ourselves, not knowing shit, and making that happen. When you went to New York by yourself, your energy, your vibe, your frequency for what you want to achieve is so different in that city. So when you came here, you weren't like that. The vibrations here was not matching what you wanted. So you started feeling very stifled, very, very suffocated. And for me to sit there and to accept that about myself and be like, holy shit, it's not I'm not grateful, but I'm done with the city, and now I want to really move, and that means you know what I mean, like having those conversations with yourself. I had to then accept it that, okay, so I was acting like a jackass to my friends without realizing it, because it's not even their fault, or it's not even my fault. I just didn't realize that I just wasn't fitting in. But then to start having those conversations with, you know, people, and hearing those harsh truths about yourself, I think also plays a big role in, like you said, being grateful, being humble, never getting cocky, but still not lowering your expectations and standards. So what this made me do is I'm not going to lower my expectations from people, yes, or my standards, but I'm going to start being mindful, because I never want them to feel that they're not enough. They're always enough. It's just a matter of, at this moment, going back to your point, are we aligned or are we not aligned for what we want to achieve as friends, or as professionals, or whatever.
But I think as we get older, we also have to understand that we shift, our energy shifts. So as friends, we're not, in our younger days, and when we first met, we were aligned because we were on the same page, in the same book, in the same paragraph, same line, same sentence. As life happens, and as everybody's individual wants for themselves begin to manifest more and become more prudent, your desires change. People become mothers, get married, come fathers. You know, a lot of my friends are not in the same line of business as I'm in, and they're not in the same route of, a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs like me, in terms of hardcore entrepreneurs, where they started their own brand and their own business. So when they understand, Jackie's working, like, that's what it is. And they tell Jackie's on her own path. She talks to us when she can, and it's not a beef thing. It's just because I can't do the same things. The same things don't matter to me anymore. Going to the club, I was never really a big clubber to begin with, but going to the club isn't a big thing for me. I would rather sit home and make money versus partying. But I do understand that, every now and then you gotta live your best life. But you were saying something about, you have to have those real, authentic, hard conversations with yourself. But I have to champion that you don't have those hard conversations, but don't be cruel to yourself, because we are our worst critics. And I think a lot of us are really hard on us more than we're hard on others. Remember to be kind to yourself. That's something I had to treat myself and train myself to be very kind to myself as well, to understand that, you know what, Jax, you are doing, you know what, you're good, you're great, like you're good. Yeah, you could do better, but you know what, for what you did today, that was a good effort. Like, I think being kind to yourself is a really underestimated tactic that a lot of us don't use.
I think it's also it's really important to learn and like from your experiences and situations, and from yourself. Like, if you're going through something and you may have not managed it or handled it the best way, or you feel like, you come up feeling shitty from that situation, and you take that time to self-reflect and understand why that happened. That's a learning experience. It's not a point to be critical about yourself, but it's okay. You know what? I didn't manage this the best way I could, or I don't feel good coming out of the situation. Why is that? Why am I feeling about what did I do to contribute to that? And let alone, there's outside factors and you can't control those things, right? So, but if you walked out of it feeling shitty, there's a part you play in it too. And I think owning up and having that responsibility is part of being good to yourself. So, okay, here's what I probably could have done differently in an effect to change the end result of that. And here's what I can learn from it. So next time if I'm faced with a similar challenge, I'm going to try to do this, manage it this way, right? Just so that I'm not impacted the way I am today, because at the end of the day, you're number one. Like, you got to protect yourself. Right?
100%. And I think that's the thing. A lot of us don't understand that the things that continue to happen to us are learning lessons. And the goal is to learn from it. And it takes I find with age and with situations, you become more aware of, you start blaming the factors of life, but start looking within and be like, okay, what did I contribute to this? What rules what triggers this for me? And I've started to learn that as well. Like, when things happen, it's like, okay, stop and think about, why am I blowing up? Why am I upset? What's happening? And then you start to quickly, and then once you have that audit and conversation, when these things you could smell that shit coming from a mile away. You're like,
oh yeah.
Not for me, because I know it's going to happen. And you start learning how to adjust and move beyond that instead of being stuck in it. But there's certain things you have to be stuck in. It's like the eye of the tornado. You got to be stuck in that whirlwind for a little while before the tornado starts to cease. And then, you learn from it to be like, okay, the next time a tornado comes, what's our
exactly
plan? What's our safeguard?
Exactly. What's your strategy around it now?
And the one thing I would love for all our readers, our listeners to also keep in mind is that even if you do come to a point, and how most of us have come, especially during now, where, Jackie, like you've said, you've had to not want to sit on certain tables, or you have also reshifted and rebranded, and you went through your challenges, I would say, with this, is that it's never too late to restart or reshift or change or accept. Like, I had a friend of mine tell me, I was chatting with him, I think a couple of days ago, and he's like, what's going on with you? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, since January, you're very different. And I'm like, I'm not different. I just realized certain shit. I just chose another path, and I just reshifted how I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have days that are up and down, of course. I'm human, but now I just don't have that same mindset anymore. And it's okay to restart my life all over again. So, people shouldn't be scared to restart. Yes, it's scary, but once you take that step, if that's the right step for you, then, you just never know what doors you're like really opening for yourself, what blessings you're getting to get to like where you want and how you want to live.
100%. And stagnation doesn't like breed success, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us get comfortable, and it's like I was saying about that quote that Baby Blue from Pretty Ricky said. It's like when you don't move like everybody else, it bothers people. And it's really true, because people are used to you being a certain way. They're used to talking to you a certain way, dealing with you a certain way. So now
Conformity.
when you shift, right? So when you shift your energy, they take it as an act of war, like you're acting out against them and you're becoming somebody different and new. And it's not that. It's just the way in which my life is going. It doesn't mean everybody's in that race with me.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta be okay with, like, I find entrepreneurship is one of the biggest things of to see who's around you, and you start shifting as your brand and your business grows. And that applies to motherhood, marriage, whatever it is. But as you start elevating and becoming the person that you were authentically meant to be, you will start seeing people drop like flies, because they're used to you being a way that is comfortable for them. And not everybody's for you. And that, and I wish I could go back and tell my younger self this, and I tell all the young kids I talk to, not everybody's for you. And
right.
you can't bring
And that's okay. And that's okay. And that's okay.
Very
and
much
that's
okay.
Totally okay.
But they're here for a season, and everybody's here for a season and a reason. And everyone's here to teach you certain things, not about themselves, but about you and your outlook on life. And I always say this as well, we are on borrowed time. So, well, actually, my friend, I should quote properly. My friend Nicole said this at our friend's funeral a couple of years ago when she passed away from cancer. She had said, we are on borrowed time. And that notion has stuck with me over the past almost 7 years. And knowing now that we're on borrowed time, how much time are you going to give to the things that don't serve you?
Exactly.
So deep there. Exactly. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and they're like, tell me something funny, because like I'm sitting at home and I'm bored and I don't talk to a lot of people, and you know a lot of people, and I'm like, well, I don't know a lot of people. I don't actually know, I don't know anybody. Like, and she's like, no, but she's like, you have you're out there, you DJ, you host. She's like, you gotta hear some funny. I'm like, I've literally and this was like later in the evening, so I'm literally from like 3 o'clock to now, I've talked to 3 people. Yeah. And I'm like, and this it spun into a whole conversation, and the outcome of the conversation was, I find like when we're in our regular day-to-day lives before all this started, we're like, and I'm sure you guys can attest this, I'm running around, I'm involved in events, I'm involved at work, I'm involved with, elevator bridge projects, I'm involved with this project. I'm always running around, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm doing all these things. And I find that, as I'm interacting amongst all these different social platforms and live when I'm with people, I feel like there's always so many people around, and I have so many different connections, and I have so many different relationships, and I have so many different things going on in my head because of touch points, whether it's an Instagram post or a Facebook post or a WhatsApp group chat that's, a million miles long, and you go through all these different names in there. So, but I feel like if I see that, it's a touch point. But now when you take away all of that, all that noise, and it's the 3 people maybe that message you on the daily, and it's like, I have 3 friends. I talk to 3 people a day. Like, those are my 3 friends. Like, everything else, and when you feel like, okay, now I've talked to this person, you actually haven't really talked to them. You saw an Instagram post from them, but that's in your mind, it's a connection point because you have talked to them.
Conversation.
Right?
You know what's funny?
And so like I was having this conversation yesterday, and I'm like, I've talked to 3 people today. Like I don't have like these are my friends. Like that's it. Like my circle
I
is
better
3.
be on that list, or
You-
I will kill you.
You were one of them.
But it's funny. I've had a few people say to me over the past couple months, "Oh, you have a lot of new friends. You know a lot of new people." Listen to me. I don't know a lot of people. I'm just really well connected, and that's no pun intended. That's no pun intended, but it is what it is. Like because of the nature of my job and what I do, my
That's
job
just
is
it.
to be social.
Mm-hmm.
But when I really think about it, the most person I talk to most of the day is my sister. My
Right.
younger sister Stephanie. We talk all day. We send each other cat memes because we're old cat ladies. We do the most. And then
I want to be on this cat meme list because I'm a cat person too.
Don't tell me. I'll start sending you the most videos. My sister and I kill. Our DMs are straight videos of cats. But
That's awesome.
I know a lot of people through business and through the nature of my work, but it doesn't mean I have all these new friends.
That's exactly it.
Like my phone even shows me they've labeled certain people as my favorites because there's like 7 or 8 people that show up on rotation on my phone that I either call, I text, or we message each other. So it's interesting when I get that too. People are like, "Oh, you know a lot of people." I'm like, "I'm just really well connected, you guys." And the line of work in which I do allows me to connect with a lot of people, but I don't talk to a lot of people. I don't converse with a lot of people.
You don't have that deeper, real relationship. It's a connection. It's an acquaintance. It's a business but it's not a relationship.
100%.
Yeah, two totally different things. It was such a weird realization because it was a question that was asked me, but I babbled on for a good 20 minutes, and then at the end, the result was I'm like, I have no friends. Like I don't know anybody.
Okay, you know a lot of people. Like, calm down. Okay.
No, but the point, it's like those real relationships, like the people that you talk to regularly, the people that you have those deeper connections with, right? Like it's few and far between, which is okay, and it's a good thing because it makes you realize, okay, well, these are the people that are important that I want to talk to on the regular and have those conversations with and have those relationships with. Right?
And it's nice to have, random that you could talk to about other stuff because,
absolutely,
a lot of my close friends, they don't understand what I do in business, what I actually do, how it affects me. And there's certain things I can't talk to you about because you don't get that mind state of, and not that you're not great, but you just don't feel the need that I have. And there are people that I can talk to about this shit and they get from an entrepreneurial standpoint where I'm coming from or the frustrations, but then when I need to talk about personal stuff or I'm going to go to you because you understand me on a level that they don't. So I think people need to start discerning those things and understanding that there is a difference with that.
It's like you said earlier, like reason, season, or lifetime, right? Like a relationship is either for a reason, for a season, or a lifetime, and it's like where do they fit into that in your world?
Yeah, and during this time is also kind of when, even though your relationships may shift, you also end up realizing when certain things happen in your life or certain news comes to you, who's the first person or who's that second person, let's say, or your top 3 that you want to say, so I did this and this happened. You know what I mean? Like you want that person to know because you value their opinion so much. That's when you know that this is like someone who's so important in my life, that like this is a friendship that despite whatever's happening that I cherish. And this is also the moment you realize these things. Like in this anti-social life, I mean, I don't do any of those, Zoom parties and house parties and all those things. Like I'm in bed by like 11:30, 12 at this point. I wake up early, even now. But there are a couple of people I'm like, guess what? This is what happened. Or this project of mine came out. And I'm like, these are the people that are still so important to me. And there are some people I'm like, oh, we've been friends for 5 years, but I kind of don't want to share this with you because I don't think you're going to get it.
It's a different relationship. Absolutely. So,
and this is when you kind of understand that, right? So part of it, at least.
So Jackie, we're gonna ask you before we close off here because Rashi always has, and I say this because Rashi always gets the last thought before we close off. So I'm gonna ask you for just sort of your just based on this conversation. We discussed so many different things, and honestly, it could probably go on for 3-4 hours without even us thinking about it. So I'm also cutting it off a little bit just because I want to have a second show where we bring you back on and we take it in a different and cover other topic because there's so many different things that have come up through this. And I think, before we sit down again and do this a second time, I'm going to listen to this whole show, take some notes, and be like, okay, these are areas that we didn't get to dive into, and let's go into those. Okay. But anything you'd like to sort of share as your final thoughts before we close off, just based on the conversation we've had today?
I mean, what I love about this conversation is that it was just so authentic and it was so organic. And I think if there's anything I could share with anybody, it would just be yourself and have conversations with people that you don't always talk to, that you don't always reach out. Because I've learned so much just talking to you guys today, and just other things have inspired me. And I think, it pays to reach out to new people. It pays to talk. And we are in a time right now where celebrities, where people, not even just celebrities, everybody in the world is more open, because we're denied the access of that quote unquote freedom. So right now people are craving conversation. They're craving, new outlooks and outputs. And I think you do a disservice to yourself by not opening up your circles to invest in new conversations and new experiences with people. And again, just take that time for yourself, again, to understand and go back to your core values. And I think setting a core value of your wants and who you are and what your makeup is, and having those conversations, not just alone with your family, but with your friends as well, and having that time to really, get to know the people around you. It's like chess. Everybody in your life has a certain role that they play. You have the queen, you have the pawn, you have the king, you have the knight. And when you understand where you fit in these different segments of chess within your friends and family, your life becomes so much easier.
In every segment, you may be a different 100%. Player.
100%. Yep. And it's also, going back to auditing and checking in who I was with my friends 10 years ago
versus who you are today.
Who you are now.
Completely different. And so we got to have those check-ins. We got to go back and have those conversations and be like, so where are you at now? Like, what's your mindset at now? And readjust. You cannot carry the same energy from 2007 into 2020. You are not, between then and now, so much life has happened to you. It's definitely having those audits and those regular check-ins to be like, okay, we're in a new decade. So how we coming in 2020? What's new? What's good? Having those vibes, Yeah.
So Rashi, you got literally a minute and 10 seconds.
Oh, that's enough.
Yeah.
So, Jackie, honestly, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I loved that there were so many stories that I felt that I personally could even relate to with you. And for me, that's always such a winner, because like I said, I always feel like I'm outside the fishbowl. I always feel like I'm never in the crowd. So to even hear someone's story that's similar to mine just makes me feel like I'm in the right place at the right time. And I'm on the right path. So really, sincerely, thank you for that. Sauder and our listeners, going back to what Jackie said about being authentic, that means Sounds of Rashi will be coming back on the
100%,
podcast.
as they should. That's what got us started. That's what got us started.
And on a serious note, guys, it's never too late to reset, reshift, refocus. It's never too late for that. And if you're not sure how to do it, reach out to your friends, talk to people, communicate. That's the biggest thing I found, that we don't do that enough. And never make your friends feel like they're not enough for you, because they are. That was my biggest lesson so far this year. They always are enough for you. You just need to learn to manage your shit better. There you go. That's my last thingy.
Perfect. And
thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Jackie. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye. Hey, guys. Thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind-the-scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red, button thingy that's over there, and hit subscribe, and keep following us for a lot more cool, fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon.